I am delighted to see this face again so soon. I hope that she comes around all the time. Elle Duncan, someone at ESPN that Zaslow is not feuding with and has never said anything bad about. I wanted to talk to her because I have been negligent in this first hour of, like, this was a bit of a devastating injury last night. I mean, not a bit of, like, when everyone's watching the sport and the best player in it, JuJu Watkins, goes down with a knee injury and gets carried off the court. March Madness becomes like, how am I supposed to talk about and feel about all that? That just stinks. That's just a body breaking down, and I wanted to watch her win everything because I know she can. So anyways, Elle, thank you for being on with us. And the heartbreak in that. How did that go down last night?
Well, it was really brutal. Probably TMI, but I was in the bathroom and, I'm still wearing my IFB. We do have to take pee breaks. And I had my IFB in and I thought I lost the broadcast because it was silent. And I was like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden I started getting text messages. I'm like trying to furiously wash my hands. My producer's like, get back to the studio. JuJu just went down. It's bad. It looks really bad. And I was like, what? And so I run into the studio, and you guys, the studio, which is normally, especially with Shanae and Andrea, is so joyful, so loud, like we're yelling, we're reacting. It matched the silence of the Galen Center. It was like everyone was just sort of in a little bit disbelief. From what we do, from a professional level, it's devastating because it's JuJu Watkins, because we wanted this Elite Eight rematch with UConn, because to your point, like she's going to be the National Player of the Year and they're ahead of schedule. On a personal level, it's devastating because of everything that JuJu's given to the game, how hard she's worked, choosing to go to a USC program that a lot of people scratch their head, like, why? They haven't been relevant since Lisa Leslie, and she strapped her city on her back. Like, she made LA a basketball town again, and she just to see that happen in the way that it happened, to see someone who is so famously unemotional, like she puts up a 30-piece, no emotion, like no, to see her screaming in pain and writhing on the ground, it was horrific and devastating, and it absolutely changed the entire tenor of the tournament. It did.
Okay, so you're offering a lot of context there that I want to follow up on because of how this story hurts. The connection specifically to USC. Walk us through the history of all of that, culturally, generationally, what that program means to those people, and what it means to have this player, this hope go down like that.
Yeah, I mean, she has like she has a giant mural in the city of LA. When she chose USC, she actually, on her signing day or her announcement day, whatever you call it, she actually came on SportsCenter and talked to me. And I've, in a very soft way, kind of asked her that same thing that I just said, which is like, okay, I mean, I get it. You're from LA, but like, you're the #1 prospect in the country. Everyone wanted you. Why not go team up with UConn? Why not go to South Carolina? And she was so adamant that her entire goal was to, in her own backyard, make basketball relevant again, to make that USC program a powerhouse like it was in the early 90s before she was born. Like she wasn't born when Lisa Leslie was doing what she was doing at USC. And when we talked with Lindsay Gottlieb last year at the Final Four after they lost to UConn in the Elite Eight, I was like, I know that you knew JuJu was a prize, but did you know that she would get your program here this quickly? And she was like, no, I didn't know it would happen so fast. Like she thought it would take some time and maybe some transfers that would get them there. And she has made, like, I've talked to LA friends who are like, LA is buzzing with basketball at a college level, right? You're always gonna have the Lakers and sometimes the Clippers, but at a college level, like with UCLA being a powerhouse again, and with USC and JuJu, she's the face of basketball. And she has strapped that city on her back, and they love her so much for everything that she's done. I mean, USC has become, the place to go watch games. We see every super megastar. We just saw Jaden Daniels there. It's just incredibly disappointed to see it go down like this. You lose on the court, you get out battled, fine. But like to see their chances suffer greatly because of what happened is just, it sucks. I can't come up with a better way to.
I believe that's a good way to clip that there. It just sucks. I can't come up with a better way to say that. And then she cuts out. But that's a good way to describe it. We could use a lot of words, but those two work.
Yeah, Elle, you talked about, USC's chances. I want to get to that in a second because they are still a 1 seed, and Kiki Iriafen obviously is one of the best post players in the country, and she had a really great game after JuJu went out last night. But this is unfortunately such a common thing in women's sports to see knee injuries. It's happened to other great players right before the tournament. Liz Kitley comes to mind, Olivia Miles obviously, and it really impacted both of those teams' chances of winning a national title. What do you think will happen next? I mean, there's obviously a tough matchup in the Sweet 16 round for USC now against a really good Kansas State team that just got some of their players back from health stuff. So do you still see them making a deep tournament run?
So I do think they can beat K-State. We talked about this yesterday. Like, what does this USC team look like without JuJu? Because they haven't had to experience that. She averages 35 minutes a game. So they basically play 5 minutes a game without her. And so I do think it's going to force, I mean, listen, it's still USC. Like, they still have Talia Van Oelhoffen, who transferred there, Kiki Iriafen, who you mentioned had a career high. And I do think that there was definitely a galvanizing sort of moment for them yesterday. And having her back, we heard Lindsay Gottlieb talk about that. But ultimately, like, to be honest with you, Jess, like, I didn't think that USC was going to get past UConn with JuJu, just because, like, if you've watched UConn play the last 2 games, like, I'm not sure anybody's going to beat UConn if they keep playing that way. But I do see them getting to an Elite Eight. It just obviously changes the entire scope of that matchup if JuJu's not in it. They're going to have to lean on everybody else, but she's going to be National Player of the Year for a reason. And we saw what happened for UConn when Paige was out. I do think really quickly too, though, like, life sometimes is really interesting. The ironic symmetry of, on a day that Paige Beckers played her last game in Stores and tied a career high after what she's been through and her devastating injuries too, that we then see the same exact thing happen to JuJu. Like, it just, I hope that is in some way inspiration for JuJu, that you can suffer these really great setbacks, but then you can come back better than ever. I mean, Paige hasn't missed a beat, and she's going to be the -- 1 overall pick. But it's, you know, I don't see them making it past UConn either way, honestly.
I was about to say the same thing, actually. Going from Paige giving the interview in Stores, and then Gino talking about Paige's legacy, and then it happened like 5 minutes into the next game. It was the last game of the second round. Yeah. It was really kind of strange to see. So, I mean, obviously it's still early. We don't exactly know the nature of the injury, but, like, you would say we probably will see JuJu Watkins back 2026, 2027 season?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, it really just depends, right? Like, for Paige Beckers, when she tore the meniscus in her knee, it was in the summer. And so she did miss that entire season because of it. I don't know how USC is going to play it. You know, if there is any blessing, it's that it happened in early March and maybe not in the summer as they were doing their off-season training. I don't know if you say, let's medical redshirt her, right? Like, she's only 19 years old. She's not eligible to go to the WNBA draft until she's 22 years old anyway. So I don't know. You certainly don't want to cause any long-term damage for someone who we believe is going to be one of the greatest players of all time if she projects the way that she is now. But yes, I would say the getting used to a life potentially without JuJu next season would be a fair assessment.
I'm wondering, and I don't know if this is overly simplistic, but or reactionary because of whatever the emotion of the moment is. But what level of unsatisfying is this going forward, or what needs to happen in terms of storylines to take the pall off of what had felt like a giant celebration and a coronation at a time where we know more of the women players than we do the men in college basketball?
It's true. I tried to say this to someone last night. I was like, imagine if on the men's side, if they lost Cooper Flagg in the same way, right? Like, it would change the enthusiasm for the tournament in some way. The good news for us is that while JuJu is one of the faces of women's basketball and will be National Player of the Year, we do still have really great storylines. We have Notre Dame, who has the best backcourt in the country, finally sort of figuring it out and rounding into form. We have TCU. Haley Van List's story is amazing. TCU's story is amazing. I know they're not like a major open. They couldn't even field a roster. They were horrible. And now they're headed to their first Sweet 16. And people made fun of Haley for choosing TCU. Like, wow, that's great. What a basketball powerhouse. And to see her story, like that's still a story. We still have South Carolina, right? Like trying to to be back-to-back champs for the first time since UConn did it. And then we still have UCLA, like who is a huge program. Again, sort of a return to prominence, a return to glory, if you will, looking for their first Final Four. So if there is any blessing, it's that this happened last night. It gives us a few days to compartmentalize and process. And then we sort of get to look ahead to the Sweet 16, which is still rife with storylines. Yes, like, did I want an Elite Eight that was going to put up enormous numbers personally as someone that like benefits from that at ESPN? Yes, but we do still have a lot of meat on that bone.